Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Bill on Bikes. I really appreciate you watching. And what do we have here? Our 2000 Fat Boy Project bike. My client had been in an accident some years ago, put the bike away, never really thought about it, brought it to me basically in pieces, and this is what we're looking at other than the disassembly of the primary and some of the engine components that I did. But it's been a nightmare. I can't, sometimes being in business is really tough. Boy, do I have a story for you. So I take all the engine parts and the oil tank and handlebars and all these things to the powder coater to be gloss blacked. I drop them off. It takes, 4 or 5 weeks to get your parts. I finally call. I say, hey, I'm coming to get them. They're like, well, we already dropped your parts off. I'm like, what do you mean? We dropped them at your store. I go, no, you didn't, because if I'm not at the store is closed. So now we have a problem. They've dropped them somewhere else. They call everybody. They try to find the parts. No one will admit that they have the parts. So now what do we do? Well, luckily, I had a lot of parts in stock. I had a parts bike outside. I disassembled a lot of like the rockers and things like that. Take them there. They powder coat everything for me. Obviously, they didn't charge me a second time. I get the parts, which are over here on this bench. I'll give you a quick shot of that. There's our parts. I dropped some parts off there the other day, and as I was picking up some other parts, they said, hey, wait a minute, we have something for you. I said, well, I haven't dropped any other parts off other than what I just picked up. Oh no, we found your parts. Supposedly, another shop had them who hasn't been open for months and finally saw the parts and got a hold of them, and now I have double sets. Whether I really believe that story or not necessarily from the powder coater, but from the guy, whether he had them and he hasn't been open for a few months. I don't know who does that and stays in business unless he's going out of business. But anyway, we're going to get this Fat Boy going, get him on the road. We're doing wheels, paint, all the powder coat stuff. It's going to be a really nice project. This is the time of year in Phoenix where I try to do most of my bigger project bikes. I got to wrap up that shovel head, and I got a big dog with all the wiring we have to do. And a month's dyno work and engine stuff, and it keeps us very busy here. So I hope you all stick around, and I probably won't do a lot of commentary as I'm assembling this, but it'll be fun to watch, and it should come out pretty nice. So stick around. Thanks for watching. All right, guys, we're making some really good progress on our 2000 Fat Boy project. I have the front end on. I mounted the turn signals to the cans, which I thought looks pretty good. The handlebars wired all internally, different risers and clamp. It's off a later model Softail. So we went with 10-inch bars and a 3-inch riser, so it should be good for the customer. Oil tanks in, the engine's all together, rocker covers, transmission side cover and transmission topper on. We're going to get ready to install the wheels today, the primary cover, and probably the headlight and front shroud. We'll get all that on, and we're getting pretty close. It's a lot of work, but I think we're going to have a real happy customer in the end. All right, guys, a quick tech tip. You might have noticed I put 1 quart of oil in, and then I added about another 4 ounces, and the reason I did that was you want to make sure the oil is just up on the clutch spring. Where this has been totally dry, everything cleaned out, you're always going to want to add about 3 or 4 more ounces of oil to get that oil up on the clutch spring, even though the spec will say, hey, everybody just put a quart of oil in it. And you'll notice there's always a wet and a dry figure in the service manuals, just for that reason. Just a quick tech tip. All right, guys, still making good progress on this 2000 Fat Boy project bike. It's been sitting for years. I am going to have to remove the carburetor, throw it in my cold tank, which is a chemical we have here that we use to clean it all up, and then we'll reinstall with new intake seals, all new accelerator pump, O-rings, things like that. But I want to point something out while I'm installing this custom brake line here. If you're going to use the stock clamps, you're going to want to put a small washer in between where the clamp comes together. Let me get that a little closer for you. And the reason for that is you don't want to pinch this line. If you pinch this line, you can put pressure in the line and put some pressure on the pucks to move out, same as if you're pulling on the brake lever itself. Remember, Harley actually had a recall where they had some brake lines that were being pinched up under the gas tank just for that reason. So it can happen. So I put that spacer in there to relieve any pressure that would be put on the line. You don't want to pinch down on this stainless line because it can cause some problems with the brake. And I'd just like to point out a couple things on this CV carburetor. As they get older, the 90-degree inlet here that you can see is plastic. It will start to crack. That'll end up leaking on you, so what you want to do is do an update to the 90-degree brass fitting. We'll put this inlet in once I cold tank the carb. It's very common in the old CV Keans and the even in the old Bendix carburetors, common for that plastic inlet to crack and break. And also on the CV carbs, you'll notice there's an arrow in here, and that's the direction that you move the pin out, so you don't break these little standoffs here on the carb. So you don't want to ever do in the opposite direction, because there is a taper here and it will actually crack these little towers. So the arrow points to the direction you want to push it out, and you also want to make sure you support this tower. I use a very small socket here when I'm tapping it on the bench. That way I'll never break one of these. So just a little update, and we'll keep on moving on our 2000 Fat Boy project bike. It's going to be really nice when it's done. It's nice to bring an old bike that was left for dead back to life. It's fun to do. It's costly, but if you're a technician like me that's worked on this stuff forever, it's just exciting. So it's coming along nicely. All right, guys, making good progress. More teleprompter and script-free information here in the Motorcycle Garage. I just want to show you the CV carburetor after it's been cold tanked. You can see how clean it comes out, rebuild everything. We have our new 90-degree fuel inlet on there. The other one was really difficult to get out. Sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're difficult. I think it took me probably a half hour to get that out of there, but you have to be so careful. You know, if you crack the casting here on the carburetor body, it's done. So that came out okay. We're going to work on the wiring today, try to get the rear fender on, and I'll also get the carburetor on. So we're getting closer. I got to go answer the phone real quick, as you can hear it ringing in the background, and let's get moving for the rest of the day. Getting ready to put the exhaust pipe on. I want to show you a little trick. This is a Thunderheader we had Cerakoted. I want to show you something. I take some tape and I put it up near the head of the pipe here. So when we put our flange on and then our snap ring, when you go to put the exhaust on, normally this clamp would slide down the pipe and it damages the finish. Well, if you put this tape here, it won't slide down, you won't damage the finish. And you gotta be really careful when you're putting on the exhaust shields and the clamps, but I don't like to mark anything up if we can help it, so that's just a little trick. And we're making really good progress, so let's keep moving. We're getting near the end of the project. Today we're gonna get the rear fender on, get the taillight wired in, and get the saddlebags that he wants on here mounted. And if we can get our wiring done here up in the front, we'll get the fuel tank on, and I think we'll be all set. We should be able to clean it up, take it for a test ride. So we're getting really close. I'm excited. All right, boys and girls, put the fuel tank on. Probably the most exciting part of doing a build is when you actually put the fuel tank on, because you know you're near the end and you get a really good idea of what it's going to look like. So we're going to pop this on and get the fender worked out here in the rear, and we're going to be done. And a real quick tip here, you want to, on a twin cam, you want to make sure you put some sort of pad here on the front rocker where the right side of the fuel tank in the front, where the crossover line is. It will damage the rocker box as you're putting on the tank. So if you put a pad here, little extra safety margin so you don't gouge it. Hard lesson learned, done it before back in the day. So little tip from Motorcycle Garage. All right, here we go with the tank. I'm excited. This is gonna look very nice. Set it there for now. Gotta hook up this wire. Man, that's gonna look nice. Really excited. You'll notice I had to do a little modification to the rear fender, because instead of a 130 with tire in the back, we're running a 140. So we're going to run the later style plates to run on the back side of the fender, and that way they're almost flush with the fender, and we won't have an issue with the head of the bolt contacting the sidewall of the tire. So that's why we had to go and drill these out bigger, because this is an early style fender. And we're mounting some bags with detachable hardware. It's pretty time consuming. We got our small turn signals running in the back, and we're getting pretty close though. All right, well, as you can see, it's finally all done. Our 2000 Fat Boy project. It's been here for just about a year. He delivered it last March, and it's well, we're what, second week of February by the time I'm finishing this up. Anyway, I can get fuel in it. I'm going to get some oil pressure running through the system, so I'll take the plug wires off. We'll crank the engine over. Might have to put a little pressure in the tank. I'll get that done, and we'll try to fire it up and be here with me to watch. Oh, got it right up. Smoke coming off the engine from all the chemicals that we use, and I still got to get it outside and wash it. Really rebuilt the carburetor, cold tanked it, new accelerator pump, all seals, gaskets, intake seals, obviously. Making sure I got these bags. They were a bitch to put on. Had to make them detachable also, which was, they're not Harley bags. That's some aftermarket bag that he brought in. Looking good. All right, this bike is looking sweet. But I think overall this bike absolutely came out beautiful. A nice riding bike, so I'm going to get it outside. We're going to wash it all up, but and I'll also you know, take a look at here's pictures.